Hi everybody, and thanks for joining us for Coffee Chats today. I've got a couple of things to talk about, and then I'm going to turn the camera over to Jeff. For starters, today we have been discussing the possibility of doing a contest, just something to have everybody maybe guess a date of something. And the first thing that came to mind was the ice out on Lake Minnetonka, but that's already been taken. So we decided to come up with something a little different. We wanted to think of something that people would enjoy kind of thinking about, and it would truly be a best guess that it's whatever you think it might be. So the one we came out with was this. When do you think that the juice and coffee bar down in the atrium will reopen? And quite honestly, your guess is as good as mine. We have no idea how this is all going to unfold. So if you would like to guess a date, go ahead and just find any sheet of paper, put your name, your apartment number, and then the date that you're guessing, and bring it down, put it in the suggestion box on the first floor of the building that you're in. And we will go ahead and keep a log of that. There will be a prize. The prize for this will be the $10, well, let's see, should we do $20 gift card?
25.
Oh wow, Jeff, $25 gift card to Trader Joe's. Make it worth your while. Please, one entry per person per day, so that the suggestion box doesn't get too full. So there you go. We're going to go ahead and we'll call that contest the Juice and Coffee Bar Contest. So go ahead and put your entries and you can start that today. Another thing I wanted to talk about is that tours are kind of picking up a little bit more. The weather's been really cold, but we've had people with more interest in the possibility of selling their homes, and they really want to take a peek at Ridgepoint. So you probably will see me doing tours quite a bit now over the next, I would say over the next couple of months when, home sales are kind of looming and people are going to want to put their houses on the market. So if you see us, don't hesitate to tell people what you think of Ridgepoint and how you think that it might be good for them. I think that's all I've got for right now, and we'll go ahead and turn it over to Jeff.
Can I return these?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Just return these. Sorry about that.
Hi. We're conducting some business in the library here as we speak. A woman and her husband decided to go shopping one Saturday for a used car. So they go to the neighborhood used car dealer, and a young man is showing them the various cars in the lot. They don't seem to be really excited about any one of them. Finally, the used car dealer says, "Oh, I've forgotten this one. I have just a car for you. I know you are going to love it." He takes them over to a late model Japanese car. You're not going to believe this. This car belonged to my 4th grade teacher, Miss Johnson. It's just a wonderful car. She treated it very well and had all the service done here. Interestingly, she never left town with the car. All she ever did with the car was driving from school to home and back to school. And on Sunday she went to church. She never used the car on Saturdays. They look over the car and it looks magnificent. So the woman asks the obvious question. Why did Miss Johnson sell the car? Well, as luck would have it, she was called out of town on a very short notice to care for a sick relative in California. So she came in here last week and sold us the car, and of course, it's your good fortune that it's here. The woman gets behind the wheel and starts up the engine. It sounds fine. The husband sits in the passenger seat and they fiddle with the controls. She fiddles with the controls on the dashboard, tries the wiper, blows the horn, looks around the car. Geez, honey, her husband says, it's a great color too. I think we ought to get it. I don't think so, she says as she turns off the key. He's lying to us. The question is, how did she know he was lying? She fiddled with the controls. One of those controls told the story why he was lying. Roger, Paula, what kind of controls are on a dashboard?
The odometer is on there, the wipers.
Odometer, wipers, nope.
Heater?
Heater,
Air
headlights, nope.
Air conditioning?
Nope. What other?
The oil.
Your ears?
Gas.
What do you?
The radio?
The radio. What about the radio might be a hint?
Filled with the controls, the radio.
What about the pre-selected radio stations?
What about them?
They weren't local. If the car were local, the lady, all the presets would be on local stations. If you got in a car in Minneapolis, you would hit the button and you'd get WCCO radio.
Right.
So,
All the buttons for tuned
Yes.
to Salt Lake City.
they were all tuned to Salt Lake City. Okay. Folks, we went through a long cold snap. I think it's done, and I hope it's done, and I appreciate all you folks, and I know that some apartments we had a hard time keeping as warm as we'd like, but it seems like we got through it, and we did the best we could. It reminds me of a time back in 1998. The reason I know it was 1998 is because I bought a new car that year. I bought an Oldsmobile Intrigue, and I had just gotten the first oil change, and this was in November. It was a cold November morning, and the reason I'm thinking of this story is all the this whole last week, all you've heard the news say is, do not leave the keys in your car and leave it running. And the number of carjackings is way up. Anyway, so it was this November morning, and I stopped by the Amico store at Snelling and Larpenteur in St. Paul. And I went in to get a cup of coffee. And as I was walking in, this fellow asked me how I could get to the Earl Brown building at the St. Paul campus of the University of Minnesota. So I told him, and that was fine. I didn't know what he was going to do at that Earl Brown building. But when I came out from getting my coffee in the store, he was using my car to get to the Earl Brown building. I was working at Ridgepoint then. So I briefly chased the car on foot, which that didn't work. So he stole the car. A week later, the Hudson Jewelry Store over at Mall of America, some guys went in there with baseball bats, and they broke the displays and stole a bunch of Rolex watches and went out and drove off. And the Ridgedale police rammed this car to the point where it was disabled, and the folks got out of the car, the robbers got out of the car and ran away, never to be found again. Anyway, that was my car. So you can imagine what it was like to be working at Ridgepoint and walking down the hall, and everybody here knew full well that I had left my keys in my car and left it running. My car had gotten stolen, and it was used in a robbery over at Ridgedale Mall. Every person I saw, they'd see me and they'd shake their head. How could you be so stupid? So if I ever get ahead of myself and I need to be humbled, I'll remember that story, because that was not one of my shining moments. We're talking about having a contest to decide when the coffee and juice bar are open. Yep, things are very, very encouraging. One thing that I've really gotten a kick out of, not so much a kick out of, but I found interesting, is Keith Anderson from the West Building. He, on his Facebook, he does a daily COVID update. I get it. It's not that big a deal. He's just translating or bringing from the Minnesota Department of Health, and he's putting them on Facebook. And every once in a while, he adds an editorial comment that's kind of neat and fun to read. But what I do like is it's real concise, it's real accurate, and it's easy to get to. And the numbers that are being reported are absolutely encouraging. And I'm really, really encouraged, not that my opinion is worth anything, but it seems to me that the number of fatalities is drastically being reduced. And with the more vaccinations in the 75 and older group, that is indeed the highest risk group, the better it is for everyone, and that number's only going to go down. And I believe that in time, the number of fatalities will be so low that there won't be a whole lot of concern about the virus even spreading. Now, if that is the case, yeah, then we can open up all kinds of things. But until then, we have to keep our wits about us. We can't get ahead of ourselves. And we're looking for guidance from the CDC, from the Minnesota Department of Health, all the same people that have been giving us guidance or advice on how to do things up until now. But I don't think the contest is jumping too far ahead. And I'm not even going to guess, because if I guess, one, I'll be wrong. Two, I can't go into Trader Joe's without spending at least $50, so it's not a big enough gift certificate. But and I want you to win the gift card. And I could influence when the coffee and juice bar does open, so I'm going to have to disqualify myself.
Conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest. Very good. Thank
He
you.
loves Trader Joe's. He loves coffee.
I've blown my cover, haven't I?
You think you can be bribed?
I can be bribed, yes, for a $12.50 Trader Joe's gift card. But our going forward is obviously dependent on the guidance from the CDC. The component of this that you would be responsible for is, are you vaccinated? And as I go through my day here at Ridgepoint, and forgive me, but every person I talk to, I'm saying, have you been vaccinated? I think we're way over half. We talk as a management team every day, what do you think that number is? And we think it is way over half. But at the same time, we don't know for sure. And honestly, we don't even know if we can ask if you have been vaccinated. So when I'm asking you, I'm not saying you're required to tell me. It's just a matter of curiosity. When we do open, are we going to be able to say only people that have been vaccinated allowed? Or gather at your own risk? I mean, obviously you're going to gather at your own risk, but if you haven't been vaccinated, I don't think we can leave you out. I honestly don't. But we want to make sure that everyone who wants to be vaccinated has been vaccinated. We don't want to discriminate. That's not who we are. There are still a number of unanswered questions that we have so that we can open up fairly and safely and efficiently. We had our resident services director. We had 2 candidates that we brought in for second interviews, and we are going to try come up with an offer to one of them tomorrow, at least decide who we'd like to offer the position to. I think they're both pretty darn good candidates, and we want to get that person in place so that they can hit the ground running and maybe have an idea of, if we get them started quickly, then it will be more of a gradual turning on of the tap. It won't be what we expect is when we open up fully. We think there's a pent-up demand for apartments to rent. We know there's a pent-up demand for socialization, for going bowling, for seeing speakers, for doing all the things that we're famous for. There's a huge pent-up demand for that. That might overwhelm a new resident services director. So if we can get them in so that they can prepare for what they have in front of them, which they may not be able to, that would be a big help. We're looking for an exercise instructor. We've had an ad online for a couple weeks now on that, and we've got quite a large list of candidates. We've got to pick some of those and get them in here for interviews and get that hired. We in our weekly food service meeting today, we gave them a heads up. Hey, start hiring wait staff. Even if we're not open in the dining room, hire them. Get them in here. If we have 3 or 4 people delivering 30, 40 meals at a night, that's okay. We just want to have people in place so that when we get the go-ahead, we've got the looking for workers isn't holding us back. We also talked about we may, if we don't have a full complement of staff and things, we may limit the number of people that can come each night, which we may end up doing that anyway. But if there is a pent-up demand for the dining room, we're not going to have 80 people there the first night, especially if we only have 3 or 4 servers. Maybe it's their first job. We want to acclimate them slowly to the position. So we sit here and we try and think of all the things that can happen, and you can't have a contingency plan for everything. But between Paula and Linda and Patty, they ask all the right questions, and we're lucky to have that group. We really are, folks, and I'm lucky to have them. And funny how I've been telling them more lately, and I don't know why that is. I think it's because we are coming to a crucial time. We are coming to a time where we're going to get back to being Ridgepoint, and that is a tall order. And all 3 of those have been at Ridgepoint a long time. They know the beauty of the place, and they know the standard that has been set. And I think, and Paula, we want to raise that standard. We haven't had a chance to do anything that we'd like to. Now that we do, we want to raise that standard. You'll notice you're getting cupcakes, you're doing the little things. That's not me, folks. I lose track of that kind of stuff, good, bad, or indifferent. But Paula, Linda, Patty, they're talking about Valentine's Day. They're talking about Pi Day. Who the hell even knew Pi Day existed? We're going to do something for Pi Day. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do it. And that's because we've got people around here that care, that know what makes people feel special. You're all special. And we want you to stay here. We want to reward you for sticking with us through the pandemic. We talked before we started filming this today about when will this open, when will that open. Well, I remember early on in the pandemic, I had people in my office saying, well, XYZ, their restaurant is open. Why aren't we open? ABC, their restaurant is open. Why aren't we open? Well, XYZ and ABC ended up with breakouts and deaths and all that type of thing. And we stayed the course of locking down, and that was good. And we're not going to be unsafe at any cost. But we also know the value of winding up our engine and getting going. And we'll get that machinery going, and it'll be productive, and it'll be fun. And I'm looking forward to a wonderful summer and a wonderful baseball season. It's not going to start with spring training, I don't think. But hopefully by the All-Star break, which usually about July 10th, 12th, something like that, we'll be up and moving. And whether or not that means we have an ice cream social this year or not, I don't know. Whether or not we've picked a winner of the contest or we've had a winner of the contest by the All-Star break, I don't know that either. But I at least know there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming at us. We're getting ready to crank up our machinery and get going. So thanks for all that, and we'll let you know. Hold on, Raj. There was this foursome out golfing, 4 old boys, and they were just finishing up their round. They were on the 18th tee, and this one old boy was standing over his putt, and he looked out the side and he saw a hearse driving by on the road in a procession. It was a funeral procession, and he got out of his putting. He was over the ball putting, and he got out of his putting stance, takes off his hat, puts it on his heart, puts his head down, and waits for the funeral procession to go by. Stands back over the putt. It's about a 12-footer, drains it. His buddy says, "Good putt. And by the way, I just thought that was so respectful and beautiful of you to stop in the middle of your putt and recognize that funeral procession that went by." And the guy goes, "Well, it's the least I could do. I was married to her for 48 years. Have a good week."